Welcome to Dealing with Life.
If you couldn't break the drug down into a syringe, I didn't even want to take it anymore, man, because, I was trying to put everything into my arm.
A story of intense struggle.
I can remember my body hurt me so bad when I come down off that stuff, and I'd have to drink to make the pain go away.
Dying didn't matter.
They rushed me down to the hospital, and I remember laying on that gurney or whatever you call it, and the doctors were checking out my legs, and they came up, and they seen my arms, and they yelled, "Mainline, get a blood test, get a blood count, get all, and they told me that if I kept it up, I was going to die. And when we left there, we went home, and we just sat down, and we just kept shooting up because I just didn't care.
Addiction took over.
I would look up at the sky, and I'd say, God, well, is this one going to kill me today? And into my arm it went, man. I didn't care. I just didn't care.
So speak life, when the sun won't shine and you don't know why. Look into the eyes of the broken hearted. Watch them come alive as soon as you speak hope, you speak love, you speak life.
Hi, and welcome to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. I'm so glad you stopped in. This is going to be a terrifically powerful show. Dealing with Life is a show that features people who have gone through struggles, through difficulties, as we all do. But these stories are stories of victory. These stories are of people who found victory and a deepened faith through the process of going through their struggles. It also features people who have been called to help others. And we do this every single week. There's a purpose behind it. One of the biggest purposes is for you to realize in the midst of your struggles that you are not alone. Everybody has their particular struggles, but they also have victories. Victories may not happen today, but it does happen. What does victory look like to you? And it's easy for people who run a race to see this checkered flag or this finish line and say, I'm victorious, I finished. But when you're in the midst of a struggle, it's not so easy to see that finish line. Sometimes you can't even picture it being there. But through faith and through the power of God, victory is always within reach. It may take work. It may take digging deep to find out exactly who you are and how strong you are, but God will help you do that. In the studio today fits this very theme. You inspired me to talk about victory today. In the studio today with me is Liz Powers. You have a story that is just absolutely amazing, transformative, if that's a word. How you doing, Liz?
I'm doing great.
Really just so glad to have you. We're going to get deep into your story here in a minute, but I want to know, first of all, just to kind of have a landing zone to find out a little bit about you. About your history, your upbringing. I know that you are not born in this country. You are an American, very much, but you're an Army brat, right? Mm-hmm. Talk about that.
The name good too.
Brat fits it pretty well. Talk to me. Tell me a little bit about that. How where you started and how you ended up here.
Okay. Well, I'll be 60 years old next month, and I can only remember back as far as when I was about 8 years old. I just remember being a very angry child. I was very angry. Through counseling and stuff today, I've got a clearer picture of everything, but at that time, I was just angry. And my mom's German. My dad was in the Army, and
you were born in Germany.
Yeah, I was
right?
born in Germany, and we got a lot of relatives over there. My dad was always, every time we came to the States, he would put back orders to go right back to Germany again, so Mom could be with her family.
Gotcha.
And then we would move right back to Germany, and then we'd be there like 3 years, and then come right back to the States, and then right back to Germany, and right back to the States. I think
you never unpacked.
I think I figured out one time. I think by the 10th grade, I already been to 12 different schools.
Holy
so
smoke.
There was a lot of, and there was a lot of, I remember also a lot of fear. Every time I went to a new school, I always remember being really afraid, always checking in. But
that's natural.
Yeah, but another thing that was going on too was, when you go to school, I really like today when they talk about working with the bullies, okay? Because when I was growing up, I was picked on a lot too, and in my anger, I can remember I think I was 11, 12 years old, and we had to take this. We hadn't got quarters yet. We was living at my grandmother's. We just went back to Germany, and we had a special bus in the American school take us to all the little places in Germantown, where everybody lived. And there was a girl and a boy on that bus that would pick on everybody. There was only about 8 of us on that bus, and I remember one day just totally going insane, and I just went off on that girl. I mean, I beat her up bad, and I remember the power that surged into me that was so phenomenal. I mean, she was like my friend the next day. So it was really, it was a bad thing, but at that time I didn't realize that. Every place we went after that, I mean, it was like I walked into school. I remember it was like if somebody looked at me, it was like a look back, like, what are you looking at, And
Oh my,
the anger,
don't come
the
near
resentment,
me and don't talk to
the
me.
anger, the resentment, the hate was already in there. And
Ouch.
I would get in one big fight at the end of the school day with somebody, and that would kind of mark the territory where I would be in. And I hate to say it, but I actually turned into a bully myself. But it was almost like a survival thing, It was like, I mean, I didn't want to get picked on anymore,
Well, yeah.
So, that started first. That was a few years even before I picked up alcohol and drugs.
So now, but you moved all around.
Yeah.
Back and forth to Germany, but also Colorado Springs. Where else?
Maryland, Delaware, Texas. That was the worst place Texas was. Yeah, Fort Hood, Coppers Cove. That was a nightmare.
I lived there for a while. But you ended up here in Tennessee.
Yeah, Dad picked Tennessee because we'd never been here. He picked it because it had close to 4 seasons, no state tax, and the people he met in the Army from Tennessee were friendly.
Okay.
We were really treated like outcasts when we first got here, but I can also understand it, man, because I was a very, when I can remember when I went to AA, people said I look like stay away from me, but on the inside I was actually dying.
Oh yeah. The appearance.
Yeah,
The mask,
Yeah.
as some people call it. So your dad retired here in Tennessee.
And he quoted all the way down from New Jersey that we were pilgrims. I thought I was going to puke every time I heard that.
Yeah.
And we moved.
I know what happened to a lot of the pilgrims in pretty.
Well, when we moved from Munich, Germany. Well, I was going to high school in Munich, and we moved here, and we lived in Kodak in '74. And I went to Sevierville High School, and I'm going to tell you something, I thought I died, man. I really did. It was just, you talk about a culture shock, man.
Goodness.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, they're very different. So after that, so you graduated high school.
No, I didn't graduate. I tried Sevierville High School out for 2 weeks, and I said, forget this, man.
Okay.
I ain't even going there. I mean, I just couldn't conform to, it wasn't like going to school. It wasn't like Germany. It was a lot more freedom over in Germany, man. At least I thought it was. I mean, I was using drugs and drinking every day, and I mean, we would go to school. I would get on the bus in Bad Tolz. We'd take it to Munich High School, and I mean, I just used the whole time I was there. And when you came here, it was like you had to have a car to get places. I mean, over there, I could jump a train, a streetcar. You
Okay.
could walk everywhere. And here, I mean, my gosh, I remember the first time I ran out of cigarettes, and I went to this little store, and I wanted a pack of Marlboro, and they didn't have them. And I said, well, where's another store? And they said, down yonder. So I thought it was just down the street. Turned out to be 20 miles, man.
Oh, nice. Okay, so let's back up a little bit then. When did you start? When did you start drinking, smoking?
I started smoking already about 11, 12 years old, and drinking. I had my first drink when we lived in Texas, before we left Texas. No, Colorado. That's right. We're moving to Texas. I got with a friend, and I drank vodka for the first time, and I got sick. I mean, I remember waking up, coming to, actually. I never woke up. And I was in a puke in my hair and everything, and I had such a hangover.
Glorious,
I can't
huh?
remember nothing, but I could not wait until I could do it again.
Oh my, that's
It
tough.
was. It changed me, man.
So thinking back, and it's hard because I know even in my life, it's a long way to think back. But what do you think fueled it?
The anger, the hate, and the rage.
Yeah.
I was fueled with anger, hate, and rage. I had so much hate in me. When I remember when I was growing up, my dad would always say, I was always in trouble with my dad, and he would always say that when it was raining outside, that God was crying over something I'd done. If it was thundering, he was mad at something I'd done. if I stubbed my toe or banged my elbow and hurt myself, I was being punished for something. So I really didn't have a good relationship with God either. I mean, I thought,
that kind of puts a barrier.
yeah, I really thought that God was condemning. He was an old man sitting up there, and he was
Pointing his finger all
yep,
the time.
shaking his finger at me all the time.
Yeah,
that's how I felt.
That's a hard way to live.
Yeah.
And that brings out anger. That brings out resentment. It brings out distance to God for sure.
And I had that with my dad too.
Oh wow,
I really did.
So and then relationships started. Talk about some past relationships that you had.
Oh my gosh, man, relationships. So I'll give you one. I got married at 18 because my parents said when we were your age, we were married, we were settled down, and I had dated this guy for a couple of weeks. He wanted to get married, so I thought, okay, I'll try it. Maybe I'll grow to love him. And it lasted 2 weeks. We got, we had a party at our house, and we had a knockdown, drag-out fight. And winded up with him going to the hospital, getting his face sewed up because I had smashed a flower pot in his face. Everybody had cleared out, man. I mean, they'd left because we really were going at each other. And he turned around, and I got punched in the back about 3 or 4 times. And then he went off to the hospital. Oh, well, he went down to my parents' house. My grandmother just went to back to Germany the night before, and I was so grateful she wasn't here. But my dad thought, oh my gosh, he looks like that. I wonder what she looks like. So they dropped him off at the hospital and came back and saw me. And I was just bruised up a little bit, but I'd set his stuff in a laundry basket outside the door, and I told my parents to go on. I was fine. And he came a little while later, and I would let him in the house. He took his basket and he left. And then like about a week later, I went to his place, his parents, to get a address to have papers served on him for divorce. And he chased me away with a chainsaw. And that was my first marriage.
Okay. That sounds like a really bad movie.
Yeah, it was a bad movie. It really was. I got married a few times.
Okay.
Just looking for love in all the wrong places, man.
Yeah.
Looking for love in all the wrong places. I
Well,
was
when
in
your
so
heart's
many boyfriends.
stirred with anger and it's stirred with rage like that, yeah.
Nothing. No matter where I searched, no matter where I looked, it always turned into disaster. It always was disaster.
Wow.
I was looking for something, man. I just don't know what it was. Man.
Yeah, you don't know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think you found something and it turns bad, then you just get more
It
angry.
didn't turn bad, Tom. It was bad.
It was bad from day one. Okay. That's
But
tough.
I started drinking heavy in Germany and using drugs. And I was not a very good drinker. I was the kind that could have a couple drinks with you and I'd be in a good place, but then something would snap in me. And if I wasn't trying to hurt you, I was smashing up the place I was in, or I was hurting myself. Ouch. And drinking was like that all the time. And I can remember very early age also saying, the controlling, like I'm not going to tomorrow. I mean, when I come to, I'm not doing this today, as I'm smoking a joint or a bowl of hash or something, I'm not realizing I was starting to cycle all over again, but I'm not, and I would try. Then when I started shooting dope, I think I was like about 21 or 22 when I started doing. The game was over then. I mean, it really was. It was over.
Sure.
It was over. It just declined so bad, man. That's. I mean, when I was in a halfway house once, they made me make a list of all the jobs I had. I think I was 21, and I stopped counting at 50 because I thought it was a joke. I could not hold down a job. I tried going to college. I couldn't hold that down. I went in the Army, and there was a lot of bad things that happened in there, too. I got an honorable discharge, but there was things that happened between me and the drill sergeants that was not so pretty, and the CO let me go, man. He was really nice about it and let me go. And then after I got out, I went to talk to the Navy, and I remember they waived everything that happened in the Army, and I'd pass a test, and all I had to do was go swear in the next day, and I was headed to the Navy office to swear in.
Right.
And I found a job at a bar that said help wanted, and I pulled in there, and I got the job there, and I just never went back and checked that out.
Never even checked it in.
That was probably God helping me, though. I mean, even though I was, I can look back today, and I can look at all that stuff I was in, and I can still see God's hand in it, man. Because
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
But you don't see it at the time,
man. Yeah, not then. I didn't know.
No, you don't.
But today
see it.
I can.
Liz Powers. That's just scratching the surface
Mm-hmm.
because there's such a story and such a like you said, the hand of God reaching, and I want to hear so much more about it. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. This is a show we do every single week. We'll deal with more in just a second.
So don't you be afraid of giants in your way. With God, you know that anything's broken hearts become brand new. That's what faith can do.
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. That's a book about life, about trust, about worry through the eyes of a dog. If you're a dog lover, if you're a worrier, if you're both, which I am, I think you'll like this. This will have pieces and parts in it that will be very inspiring and hopeful to you, and other parts that are difficult to see because it's about a time in my life where I fell to depression, and this is my dog watching this process happen and the healing happen. One Dog's Faith, available at Amazon.com, at Cokesbury.com, at OneDogsFaith.com. And that's my website where you can actually order from there on the Buy Now button, and I'll sign it and send it to you. Liz Powers is in the studio with me today, and already we've uncovered a really powerful story that I know has a terrific and powerful ending. But we left you when you were in the mid-early 20s. And I know that you ended up in a mental institution. Talk about how you got there.
I was crazy. Like I said, I was very unpredictable.
Alcohol, drugs.
Yeah, very unpredictable. It was
anger.
an everyday thing: anger, hate, rage. It was like when I can remember one time coming to and walking out into the living room, and the whole living room was demolished. Man, I mean, furniture was flipped over, everything was broken. I just stood there and I said, "Who done this?" And he just looked over at me and he said, "You don't remember, do you?" And I just remember those words just killed me, because that was like an everyday, almost just an occurrence that happened all the time. I did not remember. I was so destructive. And
You've talked about a sermon that you heard.
he talked about that crazy man that the townspeople.
The preacher at our church.
Our church, Mike Stallings, Pastor Mike Stallings.
Concord United Methodist.
Yeah. One morning when he was sharing this, preaching this, I was like, oh, wow, that was me. The crazy man that was demon possessed, that the townspeople he was living out on these rocks and stuff, the townspeople.
And no chains could hold him down.
No chains could hold him down, yeah.
They didn't know what to do.
Yeah, and I remember when I was using, when I got in those places, it was most of the time in a blackout. Whoever I was married to, or a boyfriend, or my brother, or my dad, would just wrestle me to the ground, cross my arms over me, and lay on top of me until I screamed it all out and pass out. And then I was left alone then, yeah. And then I'll tell you, I did some screaming, man. I wanted those guys off me. And I happened to be drinking Jack Daniels and eating Quaaludes one night, and found myself in that place. But I remember bits and pieces of that night. And they took me to UT Hospital, and UT Hospital put me in the back of a police car and took me to Lakeshore. It was Eastern State then, Lakeshore Mental Health Center, and put me on the 5th floor at the Chodo building. I came to strapped to bed in that institution, and I remember, I was always calm. The next day I was trying to put the pieces together, and when they were undoing the straps, I looked at that nurse and I told her, or the aide or whatever it was, I said, God made lawyers, he made doctors, and he made me a drunk junkie. And I basically accepted that's the way God had made me, man.
You think that was his intention.
I believed he made me that way. I really did. And I walked out of there, and I stayed out there about 7 more years.
Wow.
With that belief. But
and that's a hard one to swallow. I mean, you had a lot of visions of God given to you by your father and other people around you.
It was all negative.
That it was all negative, right? So reaching out to God to help you is like,
No.
I understand that.
No.
That's hard. That's very hard.
Yeah.
And so then it continued after that, though.
Yeah. I started going to a 12-step program, and I had a really hard time there. I mean, they told me I needed to pray for God's will in my life, and I could not grasp that concept, God's will. To me, it was
not your vision of what he was,
I believed
what you thought he was.
If I had to pray for God's way, it wasn't that way at all. It was somebody else was getting their way, and that wasn't going to cut it. I was very selfish and self-centered, man, and I for the longest time I just did the parts in there that I wanted to do, and I would always go back out and use again. The anger, the hate, the rage, today I know the difference the way my heart feels. I didn't know it until one day when it was just feeling. I didn't even know how to describe it. I told people it was like a mushy ball of cotton in there, man. But that made me realize how hard it was before. It was like a stone on the inside of me, and I bounced in and out of there for years, man.
How bad did it get?
Yeah, when I was shooting up, I was, gosh, man, it was like when I got turned on to that. If you couldn't break the drug down into a syringe, I didn't even want to take it anymore, man, because, I was trying to put everything into my arm. But I got really strung out on preludins at that time, and I would be up 3 or 4 days at a time, and I can remember my body hurt me so bad when I come down off that stuff, and I'd have to drink to make the pain go away. But, I would be shooting up, and I remember I started getting these purple blotches all over me. It'd be like big hickey marks all over me, and they rushed me down to the hospital. And I remember laying on that gurney or whatever you call it, and the doctors were checking out my legs, and they came up, and they seen my arms, and they yelled, "Mainline, get a blood test, get a blood count, get all, and I got a little scared because I thought, wow, they're, I didn't know if I'd go to jail or something because, they knew I was a junkie, and they told me that if I kept it up, I was going to die because they gave me this real long medical name. But basically my white blood cells were deteriorating, and I was going to die. And when we left there, we went home and we just sat down and we just kept shooting up because I just didn't care. I can remember a lot of times sitting there and working up a syringe, and I would sit there and I would look up at the sky and I'd say, God, well, is this one going to kill me today? And into my arm it went, man. I didn't care. I just didn't care. It was total insanity, man. It was just absolute insanity. That's all I lived for was that next shot, looking for the dope, getting the dope, just whatever, it was just unbelievable. It was a nightmare. It really was. It was bad.
You told me you were digging in the garbage can for syringes.
Rinsing them out with rubbing alcohol, filing them down on the matchbook cover to get them sharp because they were so dull you couldn't even get them into your arm anymore. And that I didn't get a serious disease from it, man. I mean, come on. I was, Vaseline the plunger because the plungers wouldn't work that good no more, just everything and anything to keep it going like it was going. It was just ridiculous.
But you don't wake up every day being addicted to something. You don't wake up and say, this is where I want to be.
No, man.
No.
I just knew. It's just real hard to explain, man. I knew I didn't want to be that, but I didn't know.
But it's got such a power.
Yeah.
It's got such, and I know it's devil driven.
Yes.
It's very, very, and I think that it speaks to you. The devil speaks to you in whatever ways that he can, and said, "You're not going to get any better than this."
He knows. He's got. I've done that Priscilla Shire's Armor of God now twice. I just took it at Cokesbury. I did it about a year and a half ago at Concord United Methodist Church, and I'm telling you, man, that was a jaw-dropping class when I learned about the enemy, man, and how he works.
It's frightening.
And
what's most frightening about it is when you don't admit that it can. You don't admit that evil's out there, then you're just lying.
To discover that God has armor for us to wear. I mean, I put that on every single day now. And this last time around taking it, it was like, running it under the light for the authenticity of God's word to make sure. Check with God, Liz. Check with God.
Yeah.
What does God say about this? I would never have done stuff like this a while back, but just learning everything that I've learned. And like even going to Celebrate Recovery at Cokesbury, for the longest time, when I heard the pastors always say, well, Jesus loves us. And I used to sit there and think, man, we are so arrogant. We think we know how much Jesus loves us. And one night, Pastor Beebs was up there talking, and it was like Jesus, it was like he had a hand on each one of my arms, and he was shaking me, and he was going, yes, Liz, I love
really
you that
do.
much. And man, that just turned my world around too. This is a process, man, because it has taken, I've been going to Concord United Methodist Church for 11 years now. The first 6 were I struggled, okay? But, there were like 5 people there. I'm not lying, man. The enemy used to get me to go. I mean, I could have left, man. So many times I was ready to just not walk back in anymore.
Church didn't appeal.
I want to tell you about church, okay? I went church shopping. I needed something, man. And I remember the first church I went to, I won't give their name. I won't tell on them. But I walked in on a Sunday. I was crying. I was looking for a friend. I knew she went to church there, but it wasn't like loud boohoo crying. It was just tears just would not stop coming out of my eyes. I had a pair of cutoffs on, a whole piece bathing suit, but it was all open in the back, and I'm totally covered in tattoos. Nice tattoos, very pretty tattoos,
Yes.
I'll tell you. But I walked in there, and I sat on the back row, and when it was time for the altar call, I walked up there, and I mean, they wished me. I mean, the pastor even said I probably made a lot of people's jaws drop that morning, that you'll never know who walks in off the street. And they did their little thing they do in the back about, praying and stuff. And then I went there for 3 months, and nobody spoke with me, man. I mean, I sat there. There was one lady that even come up to behind my ear one time, and she said she admired how I showed up week after week. And I left there. Just so broken. I left.
But you were empty. Yeah.
I was. And then I tried 2 more churches out, and it was, I mean, they were a little bit better, but still, I just,
Yeah.
it wasn't happening. So I remember one day I told God, this is it. I ain't going to church no more. I'm not going back to the 12-step program. I'm sick of people. I hate people. I can't stand this planet. I am going to stay in my room. I'm going to isolate. And the only church I'm going to watch is Joel Osteen and James Merritt on Sunday mornings. That was it. And I told God. And I was in the isolation mode, man, for over a month when I found out my mom was going to Concord United Methodist Church. And that freaked me out because she's a Catholic. And her going to this Methodist church really kind of threw me for a loop. But when I found that out, I told God that I had somebody to go to church with. I told God, okay, I'll try this out one more time. And I went to her Sunday school class, which was all seniors. I was still in my 40s. But my mom even said, hide your tattoos, hide your tattoos. My mom had said she'd always seen something in there that I couldn't see. Let them get to know you first, Liz. Hide your tattoos. So, I mean, I did. I think it was like in the fall when I joined in the summertime. Man, I'm sorry. I came out of the closet. I'm sorry, guys. You don't like my tattoos. I can't help it, man. But I sat in that senior
really
class.
is. It's come as you are.
I loved it. I mean, I was, it was amazing, man. I mean, I never felt unwanted there by them. Pastor Brent Hall was the pastor. Oh, he was so marvelous, so wonderful. Just always just kind.
Genuine.
Yeah, man. Janie Wendelton, man, was another one top of the list, man. Always made me feel loved. I mean, she was so. I never had people treat me like that before. Never. Okay. Just it was genuine. I know it wasn't fake. Okay.
Yeah.
And it just kept me going back. Now there was a couple times, man. I was telling God, I'm not going back to that place no more. I would sign up for things to do, and I would never get called except Barbara Moye woman. She gave me a chance to do lay reading one time. And Janie helped me practice at the altar, man. And she let me do it on an Easter. That tripped me out, man. But
why
that
not?
just blew me away.
I don't understand why not.
I remember one time standing in the sanctuary. I wanted to do something so bad, man. And this little voice said, Liz, why don't you just go around and straighten up the books and stuff and pick up the bulletins? And this little voice said, no, you ain't doing it. A little voice, come on, Liz, go and do it. Back and forth. And finally, I started doing it, and I've been doing it ever since, man. But I love it. I love getting to serve in my Father's house, man. And, and Cindy's always thanking me. Oh, thank you, Liz, thank you. Man, I'm like, thank you. I feel such an honor. They don't know what it does to me on the inside to be able to go down there and do the things that I do. I mean, it just they allow me to do. You know.
Yeah.
It rocks my world. It's all part of the process, man. It really is. This is a journey, man.
It is a journey, and what an amazing adventure it is. I want to talk here in a second about the turning point, and how you went from there to here, because I know that's so powerful as well. But we're going to take a break. This is Dealing with Life.
Okay.
Liz Powers is with me. I'm Tom Baker, and we'll deal with more in just a second.
And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. I just want you to know who I am.
Well, no matter who you are, and no matter what you've done, there will come a time when you can't make it on your own. And in your hour of desperation, know you're not the only one. Praying, Lord, but I need a miracle.
This is Dealing with Life, and boy, we deal with life all the time. I know you do. I know I do. It's a matter of not really what happens, but it's how you deal with it. And if you deal with it with God holding your hand, it's so much more hopeful and so much more powerful and meaningful. You have a purpose. We all have a purpose. He has given us specific talents and specific things that we're good at. When we use those things to make Him shine and not ourselves shine, that's when the magic happens. In the studio with me today is Liz Powers. Such a powerful story. We've heard from you already. I mean, your last name kind of fits.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that.
But we've already, if you've missed so far, Liz has struggled for a long, long time with alcohol, drugs, dependency, anger, rage, hate. And you found a man named Bill. And I know Bill, he's a terrific person. But you guys met each other at 12-step meetings. So what happened?
We were good friends for 3 years, really good friends. Matter of fact, Bill, I admired and loved Bill so friendship love. It wasn't that meet a guy lust stuff that disappears after a week or a month or whatever.
Yeah.
But
infatuation stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a genuine friendship, man. And matter of fact, he was the only guy that I would let me hug forward. All the other guys, I would turn sideways and pat him on the back.
Oh, right,
man.
right.
Yeah. I couldn't
there's
stand
still
it. I
distance
hated it.
between us. Yeah.
Yeah, and but we wound up dating, and well, what happened was I was in this relationship with this biker dude, and I really got tired of his stuff, so I bought him a one-way bus ticket to Mississippi. And then Bill was like, "Oh, Liz, just one date. I never knew that he had feelings like, he wanted to go out or anything. We were just really good friends.
Yeah.
So we went out on a date, and we just kind of hooked up after that. And we wound up getting married. And but it was Bill is a wonderful man, and he's got a beautiful heart. And
You've been
he
married
has
how
his
long?
struggles to 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know the first 7 years he fell into this jealousy thing where he had 3 guys picked out, man, that I was going to run off with these spiritual gurus, he thought. Oh my gosh. And just every time I went off to a meeting, all these questions coming home, and I just got so tired of it. I really, the reassuring and I got so tired of it after 7 years that I just stopped going to meetings. And it was only a few months later when I got off work one night, and I went up to Tony Roma's, and I told my sister that she was working the bar. I said, "Fix me a drink." And I picked up again, and I got
busted through
sick
the wall
real fast, man. Yeah, it was like a couple months later, I was shooting up again, and for 3 years, I was bad. I was real bad again. And my mom, I didn't think my mom and dad knew because I lived across town, but my mom called up one day, and she said she knew I wouldn't leave Bill hanging with the bills and stuff by himself, and she said, "How much money do you need a week to get in a hospital?" And I told her we need at least
So she
$350.
knew.
Yeah, she gave me $350 a week till I got my act together, man. And it was a long time. She loaned me $350 a week, and until I got back in treatment. And
Well, you would have died, right?
yeah, I'm sure of it. But funny about this treatment right here is I was going to Bridges to Recovery, and they wouldn't let me graduate because I was so angry, so full of rage, and that really made me mad. But I remember making a scene on the day they were going to let me go. Man, I made a bad scene, and they wanted me to go see this psychologist, and so I went, and I remember going into Dr. Molner's office and full of rage, mad. He had a big stuffed teddy bear sitting on the couch. I walked in, I seen the teddy bear, not a hello or nothing. I just flung the bear across the room. I said, "I'm not hugging that bear," and I sat down and we got started. And I've been going to him for 14 years now, and I know, it's been a long road, but it's been worth every single bit of it. I used to go 4 times a month, but now I go once a month. I like to call it for head cleaning. And he's not even really a doctor in the state anymore, but he calls me, he's my coach.
Okay.
And it just feels really good to go there and just, the problems, the things aren't like what they used to be, okay? They're just, it's so, I am his miracle child,
I
man.
believe it. Well,
Yeah,
so talk about the turning point. What took you from that to where you are now?
Man, at Concord United Methodist Church, I got involved in so much. In fact, a lot of people thought I was living down there, man. They'd always ask me if I had a bedroom down there or something because that's where I hung out,
Every
man.
time I was there, you were there. And I'm there a lot.
I was going Tuesdays I had something going on. Wednesdays was dinner in a class. Thursdays was Soul Sisters. Friday was knitting, and then service work. And Sundays I was there already in the morning, and I stayed all day. But we have 2 12-step meetings on Tuesdays and Sundays at Concord.
Okay.
But I was down there all the time, and I was always wanting to just. It was my safe haven, man. It was. And then I took classes. I mean, with Joan Detard, I took so many classes that she had. It was anxiety. We called the class was First Let Go, Let God, and there were so many books that we studied on. Plan B. I can't even name all the books, man.
You just immersed yourself in the church.
I did, man. I did. And you know what's really something is I remember not too long ago I said to God, I said, I really wish that you would just turn my brain off for an hour, man. I want a normal person's brain, which I found out later. That no, I don't want a normal person's brain. But the next day, see, I watch a lot of TV pastors too, and Joyce Myers is one of my favorites. And I remember the next day she said on television, "You do not turn your brains off." Every time I'm in a situation like that, I'm not lying. God answers me every time. He says, "Knock, the door will be open. Seek and you'll find." And I'm telling you, I am such a seeker today. And everything's always answered. Everything is always answered.
The more you look, the more you see.
Yes, and that morning when she said that, she said, we have to transform. We have to put new things in our head. That's how you get rid of the old stuff. You put new stuff in your head. So I'm all about getting rid of that old stuff and putting in the new stuff, man. Because, I really know that God loves me today, man. And that I was the one that carved that path out in my life. It was me, my will, all the, just my thinking, everything, that was me in control of my life. And when I get up every day now, it's like, I got this, I don't want to call it a ritual. It's just things that I do to get myself pumped for the day, man. I've got 4 TV pastors I love to watch. Then I get into my Bible study. I'm doing one right now at home with Priscilla Shires, Discerning the Voice of the Holy Spirit. And, then me and Bill do readings together. And, back to that about Bill. After I relapsed and I got back into counseling, we're both on the road in recovery now. I mean, but he's always been notorious for saying, you got your business with God and I got my business with God. And so, he's on his path and I'm on my path. And,
but it's a path toward God.
Yes, definitely, man. This is just walking with Jesus, man.
Yeah.
And, for a couple of years, I read, Jesus Calling meditation book every morning. And now I've switched to Jesus Always. And I love that book because it actually talks it when you're reading it. It's like Jesus is actually talking to you. I mean, it's like those are his words coming from his mouth. And I remember, what my heart feels on the inside is what's so mind blowing to me, man. Because there's some days, like most days, that I just feel like it's just gonna blow up inside my chest, man. But I know that my soul's on fire, man. And I was reading one day, and I made a copy of it because I carried it around. I made a copy. It says that if I knew how much he loved me, that I would be so overwhelmed I would be crushed. Yeah, okay, that's true because I know how I feel right now. If it was any more on top of that, I would be crushed, man, because it's so intense.
It is. It's transforming.
Yes,
to actually realize that. But the most powerful thing to me is, and I know you feel this way, we've talked about it before, is he doesn't care where you were.
No.
He doesn't
When
care.
I was at Cokesbury a few weeks ago, I go Saturday nights there too, and Pastor Stephen was saying when Jesus spoke with the disciples, he went to Peter and he went to Matthew and he said, "Come, follow me." Not when you clean yourself up, not when you got your life together. It was, "Come, follow me." And that's really all you need to do is follow him, man. I mean, it's a journey and it's one day at a time and it's one moment at a time. And I've really got myself immersed into learning how to live in the moment because that's where all the blessings take place. I can't do anything about tomorrow or next week. I might have a doctor's appointment, stick it in my calendar. I'll think about it next week or whenever it is, you know. But I'm so focused on staying in right now.
That's all you have
That's
anyway.
all you got. That's right.
Yeah.
And it is so much more serene to live that way too. If I start, I used to be one that always rehearsed in my head. I can catch myself doing that because it's wasted thinking.
You will just drive yourself nuts.
Yes, and I'll stop. I'll apologize to God for doing that, and I'll turn my conversation to Him because I talk with Him all the time, man. If I talk to myself in my head, I make myself stop doing that too. I can catch it right away because that's really a lot of useless conversation too. And I tell God I'm sorry, and I direct my conversation right back to Him because I believe for myself that's how I'm developing his presence in my life, man. He's with me everywhere I go. He's, I ask him and I talk to him about everything. I'm always asking him stuff, and sometimes, I'll go to my pastors. Last night I had to ask Pastor Will something. I'm always, it's
Well,
search,
you're always
man.
searching.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That part doesn't end.
No,
The more
never.
the more you learn, the more you want to learn.
Yes, and there's been so many big pictures now that I've been able to come to the end of the road on certain
Yeah.
situations, see the big picture, and it just wows me.
That's
And so
awesome.
it just gives me that much more faith and that much more hope and that much more everything that I need to keep going forward, because I know God's got this.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Well, what God does, and we'll put a bookmark here, is He takes what we've done. He takes our past, no matter what it is, and He can turn it into a blessing.
Yeah, he makes beauty out of the ashes, man.
It's awesome. This is Dealing with Life. I pray that you are finding inspiration and hope through Liz's story. I sure do. And it's so wonderful to see God at work daily, hourly, minutely. And this is Dealing with Life. We'll deal with more in just a moment.
And I rise like the day, I rise up, I rise unafraid, I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? I'm still standing.
This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We've had such an amazing conversation with Liz Powers. She has struggled most of her life with anger, with rage, with drug abuse, with alcohol, and found a transforming, life-changing experience with Jesus, and has immersed herself into church. Liz, I think we spoke a moment ago about Jesus doesn't care where we've been. He doesn't use it against us, I think is a little more accurate statement. But He does use it. If we allow Him, He can take the most destructive, the most terrible choices that we make or things that happen, and if we give them over and say, use this.
Yeah.
You've been able to help a lot of people.
Share and experience, strength and hope, man, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in forever in a dark place, man, and I ain't walking there anymore. And I don't search for love in all the wrong places anymore, man. I know
That's
where
not
it's
just
at.
a country song.
No, it's not, man. I'm just wowed every day. I mean, and it's not like, I don't know how to explain it, man. I'm just excited. Every day I'm excited, because I'm not there no more. I'm here, and
But you're not mad about it. You're not.
I'm not
dreading
mad.
it.
I'm not
Yeah.
angry. That's the biggest blessing of all, is that I don't walk around with that anger, that hate, and that rage in my heart anymore. I'm actually really nice to people today.
Yes, you are.
I remember.
I love saying hi to you every time I see you.
I remember once when me and Bill were walking in the Walmart, and I lost him, and I turned around and looked, and I turned around and said, "What?" And he goes, "You said excuse me." I mean, it blew him away that I said excuse me to somebody. People always said I was like a tank when I came through. I was like a tank.
Oh, man.
And it's not like that today. I just, man, God can just do.
Well,
He performs miracles, man. That's all I can say.
Nobody could convince me of anything different. And it's all in the fact that I believe, and you can correct me, but it's all in the fact that you actually know that you're loved.
Yes.
That it doesn't matter. Just like a dog, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how mad you are today. He still loves us. Doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's transforming.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It really is. You couldn't have told me 10 years ago that I'd be sitting like I'm sitting today, man. I wouldn't have believed it for a second. And going forward, I just want more.
Yeah.
I want more. And somebody said that was my addictive personality, but hey, man, I
Okay.
said if it feels good.
Well, if you're addicted to Jesus,
there ain't nothing wrong with that, man. I always
No,
said he's
sir.
the best buzz there ever was.
well, I want to say just thank you so much for sharing your story, for opening up and digging into the past a little bit. I know it's tough to even go back there and talk about it, but then again, it's in the vein of helping. And I pray that there are people listening going, this is not the right path. being addicted to Jesus, and the more you want to find Jesus, the more all that other stuff feels so unappealing.
Right.
It's not that you clean yourself up for Jesus, but when you find him, then
He'll
you
take
just
you on your
feel
path.
you
You'll
feel
be on
like
your journey with
yeah,
him.
you
Yeah.
feel like you want to do that, and you know when you're loved, it just feels right.
Just give it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a blessing. Liz Powers, this is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. We do this every single week at this time. We talk with people who struggle, and they found victory. And you can too, through the power of God. This is Dealing with Life.
You speak life.